Hello and welcome back to Inside Quotes, the show where my brother and I start new series on the episodes of our show completely out of order. But we're also the show that rewatches, reviews, and relives the staples of our childhood. Today is episode 89, and I'm your host, Jeremy, and with me today is my older brother, Jonathan. Jonathan, welcome back to the show.
Quack, quack, everybody. It's great to be back on Inside Quotes. Jeremy, we have a special episode to talk about today.
Prove it.
I will prove it. With science.
That's one of my favorite things to do, is to just tell people to prove it.
Just to derail them completely at the start of the podcast.
They really have to think about it. Wait. Anyways.
I know maths.
But like I said, we're covering these movies out of order. And this new franchise that we're going to start covering is Indiana Jones. And we're not, and by saying like we're going to cover this franchise, I mean we'll get to it when we want to.
Yeah.
Because we're not
committing to like cover these for the next 4 weeks.
We're still in the middle of Harry Potter.
Yeah.
So
we're kind of behind on getting to those too.
Yeah. It's been a crazy summer. Let's just say that.
So yeah, we just decided...
Yeah, why are we starting with the fourth? We want you to let them know that.
We decided to start with Indy 4, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Some would say the worst, but we wouldn't.
That's right. Would you say the best? Stay tuned.
Oh my goodness. Basically, if you hate this movie, you're going to hate us, and we would love for you to just turn off your headphones right now. I'll give you a minute. You still there? Anyways, so Raiders of the Lost Ark is the clear winner. It's the best of the Indiana Jones. Hey, you're still there. Mm-hmm. That's right. Leave. Thank you. Yeah, so Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. People hate this movie so much.
They do.
So much. And I for one, am just going to come out and I'm saying I have always loved this movie with my entire heart.
Your whole heart.
My whole heart.
Really, truly.
All 4 aortas.
Was this your introduction to the Indiana Jones franchise?
No.
No?
I don't think so.
I was just curious. Yeah,
What year did this come out?
2008.
Yeah, so I was in like 3rd, 4th grade. No, I was in like 6th grade. 7th grade.
I was in high school. Yeah, I actually pretty vividly remember seeing this basically like the week or two after school got out of my sophomore year of high school. Because I remember we did like an end of the year trip, and we went to Islands of Adventure.
Classic park.
You know, classic. We did that a lot at multiple schools I went to. And by multiple, I mean 2 different schools I went to.
That's the nice part about living in Florida and going to school in Florida, is that your field trips at the end of the year are awesome.
But I remember having that like end of the year trip and going with some of my friends from high school. And we were talking about like, oh, the new Indiana Jones movie came out. Let's go see it. And so like then like the next day we went and like saw it together. And I'm pretty sure Caleb Keenan was there, friend of the podcast. I don't remember who all was there, but I think it was him and some other kids from school. But it was a great way to like kick off the summer.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing all the advertisements at the time when it came out. Like it was on every single Dr. Pepper can and 2-liter.
Yeah.
It was like all over the place. Oh yeah, I wanted to get back to why we're covering this though. Like obviously the new Indiana Jones came out, Indy 5.
Yeah.
And we wanted to compare the older Indy movies.
Yeah.
Not
and
like
you might
the
be
classic
asking,
original ones.
Jeremy, Jonathan, why don't you start off with Raiders of the Lost Ark just like they did?
Yeah.
And to that I answer, we do what we want, but mostly we just want to compare the sequels.
You know what? It was so liberating to start the Crocodile Dundee series with Crocodile Dundee 3.
This is just what we do now.
That now we're just starting wherever we want. And like I said, we'll get to them. We're gonna cover those original movies. We'll probably talk about them some in this episode.
We have to finish Crocodile Dundee before we finish Indiana Jones.
We'll just start so many different series. What series have we not completed?
Harry Potter.
Harry Potter. We still haven't gone back and done the original trilogy of Star Wars. We did the prequels.
We have not done that.
And speaking of the prequels, like if you listen to our episodes of Star Wars episodes 1 through 3, like I feel like we feel similarly about Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Like we're a supporter of it. Yeah. Where like the I don't know, popular opinion is pretty critical of the prequels and of this movie.
Yeah.
But we love it. So
well, people love the prequels. They've come around to it now.
Yeah.
People have not come around to Kingdom of the Crystal Skull yet.
Not yet.
And, did I say, ever heard of Nickelback?
Yeah.
People hated them. Now they're back in, I don't know if they're fully back, but people have recognized that they got some bops. And,
a few years ago, I was in a Target at the self-checkout, and there was this guy that walked up right next to me.
Chad Kroger?
No, it wasn't him.
Oh.
But he walked up, and it was like in a full, like decked out Nickelback like hoodie, and just displaying their merch proudly. And I was like, "Do you know what you're doing?
You're gonna get in trouble."
Like, I don't know. I don't think they'd come back around. I mean, have they really come back around? Is that a thing?
I feel like people are really appreciating them more nowadays in this decade, for sure. It was popular to hate on them, and then now it's just like, man, they got some hits for sure.
I don't feel that way about Nickelback. I definitely feel that way about Creed, though. Creed's got some hits.
Sure. I think Dad Butt Rock has become bigger again. I only say that because this is the Nickelback of the Indiana Jones movies. And it'll come back around, especially maybe after the dust settles on Dial of Destiny. I compare this to 2021 when Spider-Man No Way Home came out, and then all of a sudden everyone already started loving Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man movies. Where were we? Already in that camp. Welcome.
I just think it's the classic thing of like the older fans that grew up with the older Indiana Jones movies, they loved them.
Yeah.
And so they had all these expectations walking into the new one, and it didn't meet their expectations. But meanwhile, the kids of like people of our generation that didn't like grow up watching these, like didn't like go to the theaters to see them and that sort of thing, like they didn't have a problem with it. They liked it. So we'll get into it. We'll talk about what we like, what works, what doesn't work. But I still think it's a really fun movie, and I've never understood like why people like, oh, there's only 3 Indiana Jones movies. That one doesn't count. People just discredit it.
I have a genuine feeling that we are the only podcast that has a positive review of this movie.
Actually, no. There's a podcast called The IndieCast, and literally all they talk about is Indiana Jones, so they've had to say positive things about this movie at some point.
Okay, well, that doesn't count. Just like Star Wars, nothing makes me more mad than some franchise gatekeeper hating on itself. Sorry, it's late. I got the intrusive thoughts tonight.
Yeah, we're recording kind of later than usual. Jeremy just got back from rehearsal. I don't know if we talked about this on the pod, but Jeremy's going to be in a musical. I don't know if he wants to release that again.
So yeah, I'll be playing Harry Wormwood in Matilda the musical in Franklin, Kentucky.
Pretty exciting.
2023.
When I was watching Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, this is what you call a segue.
You're like, where could Danny DeVito...
The character in this movie, Mac, the way he talks, I feel like you should take his accent for your for Matilda's dad character. Like, I feel like it's the right...
Okay.
Jonesy.
Let's talk about him. Because...
I like him.
I do too.
People hate on him but just because he's a thin character. But, like, he's fun.
I think what I hate the most about myself is that the things that are hated about this movie are some of my favorite things about this movie. And maybe you can call me a contrarian or anything, but like, I don't know, man. That's so fun. Oh,
Yeah.
they have a double agent. Oh, he's not really on your side. Well, they literally did that. Spoiler alert, they literally did that in the 5th one. And nobody batted an eye.
And we will talk about the new one a little bit near the end.
So
We'll try and save our review a little
stay
bit later
tuned
on.
for the end of that.
I think this movie, when this came out, is when I actually like truly became an Indiana Jones fan, though.
Yeah?
Because like we had a couple of the movies recorded on tapes, and like I had seen them. At least I remember seeing bits and pieces of them,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't know these movies in and out like I do now.
Yeah.
I think like in anticipation of the new one coming out is like for the first time like really watching the series and like back to back, like watching them like
On
around the
purpose.
same time on purpose, which you don't have to. It's not like they're individual stories. Like people can talk about the first 3 being, oh, it's a great trilogy, but it's not
Yeah.
like one leads into the next. They're just standalone adventures, and that's one of the things I like about them. You can just hop in at any point.
I didn't even realize, but the trilogy, it's definitely not a trilogy because they all take place out of order.
Yeah. So Temple of Doom is technically a prequel to Raiders of the Lost Ark. Like if you look at the years,
That blew my mind.
yeah. Which is like you don't even think about that.
Oh,
But,
it's in
like-
the 30s.
But like I don't remember the exact years, but it like takes place a couple years before Raiders
1935,
does.
1936.
Yeah.
I had to look it up.
You can like kind of see it a little bit in the story in like Indy's character
Yeah.
because he's a lot more in Temple of the Doom. He's a lot more like searching for fortune and glory. Indy versus like he's an archaeologist and a professor and that sort of thing. More respected and has more respect for like the artifacts. I don't know. He's kind of more in it for like the money and that sort of thing. I feel like in the second one. Jeremy, what do you love about the Indiana Jones franchise? Like just in general.
I think it is just such a cool way to learn about history in a looser way.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the funness of Star Wars, the fun element of Star Wars inside the real world,
Mm-hmm.
even though it's not necessarily real. But it's like outrageous, and you can't help but love him. It's a classic hero movie.
Yeah, he's very relatable too because he's not perfect.
Yeah.
You know, you see him like he's just like in Raiders. He's like, I don't know, I'm just making it up as I go. You know, it's like
Yeah.
he's not always successful in
It's
what
kind
he
of like
does.
a detective too. You
Yeah.
kind of like you feel like you're on the journey with him.
Mhm.
I think that's the reason people love these movies so much is that you're an archaeologist, you're learning about history, you're also along for the ride as the camera sidekick,
Mhm.
and I don't know, it just feels like you have an input even though you're not even
Yeah.
speaking to him. You know, it is weirdly immersive like that.
One of the things that I've pinpointed as to like what I like about these is basically just because of the era that it takes place in, like early 1900s,
Yeah,
and
you
and
really
stuff,
like the period piece, like, especially like the 1930s stuff.
I've noticed I like that, and part of that is because I feel like in why it works for these movies is like you feel like it's an era where the world hasn't been totally discovered yet. Like most of it has, but it's still like plausible that there's like, you know, unsearched ruins and things like that to
Yeah.
explore that hasn't been like seen from above from like a satellite image and explored, infrared sensors and all that stuff, you know,
Yeah.
like there's still like a little bit of magic I feel like left. And it's in an era where like transportation is still like it's kind of modern transportation, but things haven't been fully discovered. So you can still take a plane. Yes, it takes a while, or take a ship across the ocean. It's not like 1,000 years ago where, you know, people couldn't do that. But But then it's also, yeah, it's just like the globe trotting. You know, it's like shooting a lot of these movies on location and seeing like a lot of times they go to the Middle East or Europe and that sort of thing. But and then just like you were mentioning, like the historical aspect of it, like the historical fiction. I feel like we've always gravitated to those kinds of movies. I don't know.
National Treasure.
Yeah. What are some
Goat.
other if you just watched all the Indiana Jones movies and you're looking for something similar to Indiana Jones? I've done that from time to time. Like, oh, I want something like Indiana Jones. Are there any other like similar movies that come to mind?
Well, National Treasure is one.
Mm-hmm. The first one that comes to mind for me is The Mummy.
The
Brendan
Mummy.
Fraser. It's such an Indiana Jones movie.
It really is low-key kind of a ripoff.
Yeah, National Treasure. Sahara, that was pretty good.
Yeah, it was. Wow, yeah, you're right. You're right. I'm looking up related films on Letterboxd, and I'm going to go with Jungle Cruise.
You haven't seen that.
No, I'm just kidding. Pirates of the Caribbean, kind of.
Yeah.
It's its own little thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As far as like the treasure hunting and the adventure, it's good.
The Road to El Dorado. Atlantis.
Yeah,
We're
Atlantis.
talking cartoons.
Yeah. I love the way that this movie starts.
People don't. Are you talking about like the Area 51 scene?
Not even that. I mean, I like that. I do like that. We'll get to that.
Or the groundhog?
Okay, I love the making a mountain out of a molehill. I love that pun. That's so great. And spoiler alert, I missed that a lot in the new Indy. They didn't do that. The transition from the mountain from the Paramount logo to like the mountain. Everyone was wondering, oh, are they going to do that with the Disney castle? But they didn't do anything like that.
That's so lame.
But I always liked that. I thought it was a good joke.
Yeah.
The little prairie dog hill.
Yeah.
First thing to discuss is like, yes, the fourth one doesn't take place in the 30s. You've got to age him up because of Harrison Ford's age.
Yeah.
And so it only makes sense for this to be set in the 50s during like Cold War era.
Mm-hmm.
And the subject matter being aliens fits right in line with like the 50s sci-fi.
I love it.
Like I'm totally on board with like the plot, the setting. It's nice to have something different than Nazis, honestly.
Yeah.
I'm good with it.
Yeah.
So I love the way that this starts because it takes you don't know, I guess it's supposed to be Area 51, but like they take you to the warehouse where they're storing the Ark of the Covenant from the end of the first movie.
Yeah.
Which is like a really cool Easter egg. And you don't know what they're after. I guess you don't even really see the box that they find. They don't really show the remains of the alien until later on in the movie.
Yeah.
But
dude, the magnets, the magnetic field with the gunpowder had me hooked instantly. It's so good. I mean, obviously, like, okay, I'm not, just because we love this movie doesn't mean we don't seriously respect Raiders of the Lost Ark, and that's one of the greatest movie intros of all time.
Objectively, it is the best indie film.
Yes. But I'm just kidding. No. But this is up there. I mean, Indiana Jones always has a cool introduction scene that has nothing to do with the rest of the movie, really. This one did.
This one does. Yeah.
But like the train, the zoo train in the Boy Scout from that scene.
The young Indy sequence, yeah.
Yeah, that was awesome. The Raiders, like, I don't know what you would consider that, the booby trap.
The fertility idol. He's searching for that in the temple. In the boulder.
Dope.
Iconic moment of cinema.
The anything goes speakeasy. I don't know about that.
Dude, don't even come at me with that. I love that intro.
It's pretty good. You know what it reminds me of?
And by speakeasy, you
Weird
mean
Al's
Club
music
Obi-Wan?
Video. Yeah. It reminds me of Weird Al's music video of
This Is the Life?
This Is the Life.
Yeah.
Yeah. But all I'm saying is I really like that, but I think Temple of Doom, the intro is the weakest of the four. All I'm saying is the gunpowder is so cool.
I love the I mean, I can understand not maybe being into the musical, like to the song and dance at the beginning.
Okay,
But I love.
you're talking to me.
Yeah, so I don't know why you're hating on it. But like I love like the negotiations. Like he walks into the club with the white tuxedo. It's Indiana Jones being like full like James Bond.
Which I don't like that.
And the escape from the club, it just starts there, high stakes, and the movie just goes nonstop.
Yeah.
I love Temple of Doom.
And that's okay. It just is not the right vibe for me. It's not starting you out on a high stakes adventure. It's just dialogue heavy. And I really just don't like James Bond as infiltrating Indiana Jones. I think it has to be two separate things.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this has been talked about to death, but like, do you know the history behind Indiana Jones? Like, as far as like the idea for the character and that sort of thing.
Go for it.
Okay.
Because I'm sure there's other people.
Yeah. Okay.
And I'm not going to admit that I don't know what you're talking about.
You're like, yeah, I know about it. I'm like, okay, then I'll move
I
on.
of course know, but I mean, you got a refresher is cool.
So, I think it was after George Lucas made Star Wars, him and Steven Spielberg went to like Hawaii to like hide from like, because he didn't know if it was going to go well or not.
Yeah.
And they're like hanging out on the beach and they're talking about stuff. And Steven Spielberg was always wanting to direct a James Bond movie. But like the Broccoli family that owns the rights, they
I'm
like,
sorry, the Broccoli family?
Yeah, that's their name. They I think they wanted to work with British directors. I don't know exactly why. I think he tried for one or two and like it just never worked out.
Yeah.
And he always wanted to do a James Bond movie. And George Lucas was like, well, I got something better than that. And he started to tell him about this idea for a story he had about Indiana Smith, which he had been like working on like ideas for. And obviously it changed to Indiana Jones. But that's kind of the core of the idea was like Steven Spielberg wanted to make a James Bond movie. And George Lucas was like, well, I've got this like adventure archaeologist jungle explorer character. Like we could do something with that instead. So he's like, okay. So anyway, the character owes a lot to James Bond as far as kind of that sort of side to him.
Interesting. He's a teacher, though.
Part-time.
Part-time.
That was a good line.
Oh, by the way, we're also like watching the movie silently as we're going.
Yep.
You were asking me a question if
the janitor from Scrubs is currently on the screen. So
solid.
Interrogating Indy.
But we didn't talk about the gunpowder. We just got talking about intros. The magnetic gunpowder was just way too cool. And it just shows you how much of a like I mean, he's a history professor, but he's not a science guy. That just shows you how smart he is, and I love it.
Magnets. Sound design in this movie is so good. When you hear like later on in the tune,
play the clip
when they find the crystal skull and like the gold pieces are like magnetized and hitting it. It reminded me of those little magnet zapper things you would like stick together that you got from like Cracker Barrel or something. Anyone that's just played with like these like magnets just knows the sound like. I don't know.
Zapper magnets.
Yeah, that's what it reminded me of. It was a good sound. Okay, let's talk about the fridge scene though.
Oh, the fridge scene. Oh, it's where they jumped the shark. Or, oh, wait.
Yeah.
Nuked the fridge.
Again, it sets you right in that age of like the 50s, Red Scare, nuclear.
You're just about to get me mad, aren't you?
No, why am I going to get you mad?
I'm about to go on a hard rant right now. Continue.
I love the scene where he like escapes from the warehouse. They get on the rocket car. They end up in like the ghost town where they're going to do the bomb testing.
Yeah.
I just think
it's so cool.
It's a cool scene. And whatever you think about him hiding in the fridge and surviving that, it is an epic shot of Indy walking up the hill and having a mushroom cloud in the distance.
In the distance.
Also, another great shot is when they introduce Indy and like he gets pulled out of the car and his hat falls to the ground, and you just see his silhouette against the car, and him putting it on. It's a great.
Some of y'all are
great
gonna
intro.
really hate this, but this has some of the best cinematography Steven Spielberg has done in this in the series, or period. Honestly,
It has some great shots.
so good.
Look, it makes sense. He got on the fridge, and you see the little plaque that it's lead lined.
Yeah,
Solid alibi.
and they used to be locked tight. Like you could not put a kid in a fridge because, it would suffocate. Those things had locks, dude. Anyways, all right. First of all, I don't even care that it's not plausible. All right, buckle up. I'm ranting.
Buckle up, everybody. Get yourself a snack. Get some
All right.
popcorn. Start listening.
Since when are we mad at Indiana Jones being the luckiest man alive? Okay, that's all okay. Now that he's 60 years old, he can't survive anything. It's all nonsense. It's always been nonsense since Raiders. Okay. Every movie has something insanely stupid that he has survived, or just honestly something as simple as just being shot at from so close and being missed. Number one, I'm going completely out of order. These are just events in my mind that I can remember. Pulling a heart out with your hand. Temple of Doom. What? Ark of the Covenant melting someone's face.
Oh, great moment.
What? I believe God can do that. It's not the Ark that can do that.
Well, that, and also at the end, like with when they open it up, and it's just like that great like fire shooting out of it and everything, and he's like, "Don't look." That's gonna save him, Everyone else like dies, but they don't look at it,
That's not how radiation works. Second, I love how I said that, and he just survived
That's not how radiation works.
but he literally survived a nuke. So, anyways, holding on to a submarine
right, yeah.
in Raiders.
Now,
What the heck? You don't do that.
I think there is some deleted scenes where he gets in, but as far as the movie, the theatrical cut of the movie, you just have to assume that he's holding on to this submarine for hundreds of miles or something. Underwater.
Yes, because he traveled by map.
That's right. Just like the Muppets. Wait, no, maybe Indy did it first.
My guy literally drank from the Holy Grail.
Mm-hmm.
How'd you find that? Makes no sense. Raft scene from Temple of Doom.
Yeah, that's the one I go to. It's like, if you can believe that he survived like jumping out of a plane with an inflatable raft, surviving a nuclear bomb, no problem.
Nothing. That's honestly, it really is truly probably the most plausible one compared to these. And the worst one of them all.
Also, like,
Time travel. Spoiler.
hey, we didn't get to that yet.
What the heck?
So, you want to hear like an in-universe explanation for why he survived the nuke in the fridge?
I would love to.
You just said it a minute ago. Indiana Jones drank from the Holy Grail.
Oh, you're right. Oh, dang.
He should be good.
Why haven't they made more movies then?
Speaking of that, like after watching Dial of Destiny, we watched that first, and then like a couple days later we watched Crystal Skull.
Yes.
And I'm just like, he looks so young.
He
compared to the new
does.
one.
And people were complaining, oh, man, he's so old
I
now.
was like, he could have done 3 more movies at this age. Like, I really wish they did. Like,
yeah.
at least one more after this. Then we could have gotten like, the full saga, 6 films or something.
Yeah.
But he could have done another one. I totally believed him in this. Like, obviously he's not moving around as much, but I still am like believing his action scenes and everything in this movie.
How old is he now? He's like in his 80s, right?
I think he like just turned 80. But yeah,
That's crazy.
I think his character is supposed to be like late 70s in the movie, and in Crystal Skull, I think he's supposed to be early 60s or something like that.
Okay.
Anyway, or late 50s actually.
But yeah, no, first, okay. the thing you need to understand if you're going to watch an Indiana Jones movie is that he is the luckiest man alive.
Mm.
And that is why he goes on these adventures. Because he knows. That's why he's so confident.
Yeah.
These movies aren't supposed to be good. It just accidentally happened to be... Raiders just accidentally happened to be one of the greatest movies of all time.
Yeah. I mean, and that's part of it is like it's supposed to be a throwback to like old serials and B movies. And like so when they shot the movie, like it was supposed to be like obviously they wanted it to be good and have like good production values, but like they tried to shoot it quick, you know, like
Yeah.
they didn't think about it much. Like it's just supposed to be a fun adventure and that's it. I think that's one of the things I really appreciate about this series is like I don't have the same expectations with Indiana Jones as I do for Star Wars.
Yeah.
Because I can watch Star Wars, especially the new ones, and be like, okay, that kind of breaks what came before, or that sort of thing. Like that's not consistent. Like I want it to have a consistent world and that sort of thing. But like when I watch the Indiana Jones movies, well, one, I'm not worried about Indiana Jones canon. You know what I mean? Like,
Sure.
But also,
This new one kind of pushed a little bit though.
But but as far as Crystal Skull, like I don't think it betrays the past movies at all. And I feel like that's one of the criticisms about it. It's like, oh, it's a different time period and it's different, I don't know.
It's just
like,
different. I mean, these movies are...
I don't think that it betrays like anything that's come before. I feel like this is the natural progression for this character and in this time period to be like, oh, this is what we're looking for now, you know? It works. It absolutely works for me, and so I've never understood the criticism that people have as far as the plot and the yeah.
Okay, secondary mini rant to piggyback off of that. These movies were meant to be B movies.
Yeah.
Just because Raiders is highly regarded as one of the greatest films of all time doesn't mean it jumped a tax bracket. You have to acknowledge the source and the intent of the original vibe, bro.
Mm.
The Raiders, they were paying homage to the 1930s crappy action movies.
Yeah. There's actually one movie from the 50s called Secret of the Incas.
Mm-hmm.
And you can definitely tell this is the main inspiration for this movie, especially the entire look of his character, the hat, the leather jacket, the whip. Like the character in that movie is like
the exact same.
It's very much an homage to that.
And of course, like it makes sense that they changed it to match the 1950s action movies because crappy B movies. What were they? What were crappy B movies in the 1950s about?
I don't know. I wasn't there.
Sci-fi.
Right.
Aliens.
Yeah.
Russians. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
And I don't know. All I'm saying, I mean, it inspires like a whole genre of action movies.
Oh, yeah.
From Raiders onward. And I'm sorry, but if you think this is a bad movie, you should definitely rethink your reasoning of why you think Raiders is a good movie.
That's all I have to say about that.
So right now, as we're talking, the motorcycle chase through like Marshall College is happening.
Super cool scene.
And I think that's one of the this is one of the better action scenes of the movie, I think, actually.
He's literally sliding underneath desks right now with a motorcycle.
Not just like through the library, but like even like chasing through the streets and everything. You see Indy like hopping off the bike into the car.
Yeah.
And like he's getting dragged behind, and the camera work in that scene is really good from Spielberg's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a scene where I'm absolutely buying Harrison Ford playing Indy at 60 years old. It just works. It still works.
And yet he still finds time to teach the kids.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to be a good archaeologist, get out of the library.
You gotta get out of the library. It's such a good line. There's a lot of good dialogue in this too.
Truly.
I don't know. Let's talk characters.
Okay.
All right. We're gonna get to Shia LaBeouf, but not yet.
Yeah, we will.
I've always really liked Jim Broadbent as I don't even know the name of his character. Honestly, I can't remember his name, but he's supposed to be. I mean, the guy that played Marcus Brody passed away, and so they need like a new like head of the college, person to to be Indy's boss basically and his friend.
Yeah.
But I don't know. You don't really get a lot from him, but you just know like he's a good friend because they're like trying to get him to like fire him and have him leave his position.
He quit his job
and
to
he's
save his job.
Yeah, he saved his job and he resigned. And so like you just know like even though it's in just like they do a lot with little. I feel like I don't know.
Yeah.
And so I've always liked his character and at the very end I like when like he gets reinstated as a teacher as a professor and there's that scene where they've got like that guy writing on the glass door like hand painting like his name and his position and everything in his office, and Jim Broadbent like walks up to him and is like, "Oh, very good. Like now make it bigger." Like he's got to like redo the whole thing that he like hand painted. I always like that.
Yeah. Classic Professor Slughorn.
We talked about Mac as kind of a sidekick villain. I don't know. I mean his motivation is pretty thin. I give you that. But I don't know. I'm enjoying it. You don't need deep character development in these movies.
He's
just
greedy, and he's crossed between loyalty. I mean, that's a solid like non-threatening villain.
One of my
secondary villain / I don't know. You could be like, why was he a triple agent? That makes no sense. But like, it's kind of boring just to have a double agent. They've been there, done that,
Yeah. Besides, he was like, "No, I wasn't a triple. I just lied about being a double."
It's funny that way.
He has good lines, and one of them that I really liked, that I laughed at when we rewatched it, was Indy like is asking him like, "Well, after, how many people did you sell out, to the Reds? Is this about money?" And he's like, "Oh, it's not about money, Jonesy. It's about a gigantic pile of money."
Back to your question before, like, what does Indiana Jones mean to you? Near the beginning, I realized, like, you know what? Indiana Jones movies make me want to travel to all these places.
Yeah.
That's all.
That's one of that's one of my favorite parts is like the globe trotting and like the shooting on location. Now, I will say one of the criticisms about Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is like George Lucas and Steven Spielberg, like they had families and stuff, and they didn't actually do a lot of location shooting in this one. So there's a lot more green screen. There's a lot more studio sets.
Yeah.
And I don't think they left the United States actually to shoot this one.
Oh, wow.
So a lot of the stuff in Peru, that I could be wrong. There might be some scenes, but for the most part, I think the stuff like in Peru was probably done in like Hawaii or something. So I think that's one thing that people have been like, "Oh, I wish they had, shot more on location on this one." But people like critique specifically the jungle scene as like, "Oh, the CGI in that scene."
This is the time to show off the CGI. This is the dawn of a new era.
Yeah.
Literally pre-MCU.
Mm-hmm.
And now's as good a time as any. And honestly,
I think
I'm patching another complaint with another complaint.
Okay.
About the movie.
Go for it.
But like, I mean, that's just what they did was like, instead of shooting on location, people complain about that. They're going to use CGI, which people also complained about.
Yeah.
But I don't care. It's fine.
Get
over yourself.
I think the CGI is much more restrained in this compared to like the prequels, the Star Wars prequels.
Compared to the fifth one.
Yeah. I think it's much more restrained. It's not.
Yeah.
I don't think it's that bad.
No.
Back to the characters. What do you think of the villain?
She's great.
She's got a good look. She's got a.
She's
like a distinct look to her character.
She definitely looks evil.
Got the sword.
She's got the Karen haircut. But that's about it.
Yeah.
she's trying to read people's minds and becomes the smartest person in the universe.
Yeah.
It's really not that much of a motivation, but it's enough to have a plot. Is she as scary as the Nazis? No. Is she less of a stereotype than the Nazis? Yeah. Is she less of a stereotype than the Indian cult? Yeah.
Mole Ram or something. I thought that was kind of cool though, like in this age of like communism and fear against the Russians, like trying to harness the power of like the Crystal Skull for like psychological warfare. Like I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
I thought it was a cool idea. Maybe it wasn't like super fleshed out, but I enjoyed that.
Yeah, it's a cool new concept.
All right, so let's talk about Shia LaBeouf, because I feel
Okay.
like this is probably where another one of your rants are going to be.
Okay.
Maybe not. I don't know.
I don't necessarily have anything crazy, but
Okay.
something might come.
People, okay, maybe this will be my rant.
All right,
Give me it. Give me the mic.
Bro, we have two mics.
I
You
have
got
my
it.
own mic.
You also edit it, so you can raise your levels. You do what you want. You do you, boo boo.
No, I think people unfairly hate on Shia LaBeouf in this movie. People are very critical of the character of Mutt Williams, and I think that part of that is because people are reading in too much to the end of like oh, they want him to be the new Indiana Jones. No one can replace Harrison Ford, that sort of thing. But I don't think that's what the final scene is trying to do.
He's such a good character.
I don't think the problem with his character is Shia LaBeouf. I think he's a good actor.
He is great. He's a great actor. One of the best, actually.
So I don't know why people hate on him specifically.
And
Unless
on top of that,
unless they
he
didn't
had-
watch Even Stevens and didn't have a good childhood.
and on top of that, he had really good chemistry with Harrison Ford.
I think so too. Yeah.
You know who didn't?
Who?
I'll tell you later.
People just didn't like the elements of this movie that they put together. But like again, 50s, he's like a greaser.
Yeah.
It makes sense. Like I like his character. And
He's
I guess,
lost. He's really he's really a complicated character, honestly.
I feel like they could have given him a little bit more, but
Yeah.
also like I think that there's enough there. Like there's a scene where he finds Oxley's cell and he sees all the stuff that's been drawn and scribbled on the wall, and he's like, it's like, what happened to him? Like he's like he was really close to him, and so you just like see the tears in his eyes because he's like he's lost his mind. What happened to him? Like what's going on? And
Yeah.
I don't know.
He has some of the traits that Indy has, and I feel like with or without Indiana Jones knowing that that's his son, he sees himself in him, and I think that's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I love the switch that Indy makes
As
when
soon
like he
as he
finds
finds
out
out.
as soon as like at first he's like, oh, you don't have to go to school. It's not for everyone. Like do what you want to do.
Yeah.
Don't let anyone tell you different. And then as soon as he finds out it's his son, he's like, you're he gives him the Harrison Ford point. He
Yeah.
points at him. It's like you're going back to school. That's good stuff. I like that.
Super cheesy.
Yeah.
Super cool. I mean, obviously he's a greaser, so he's gonna have a motorcycle. He's gonna have a switchblade.
Mm-hmm.
He's gonna have an attitude. He may start a diner fight.
I liked that. Yeah.
Pretty genius, honestly. I mean, it honestly took some of the best parts of Back to the Future and threw it into Back to the Past.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, Mutt, he had a nickname. Like, I mean, Indy's named after the dog. So his son's nickname is Mutt. It makes sense. I like it.
Yeah. It's a cool name, too.
The dog? The dog? They named you after the dog?
Henry Mutt Williams. It's so cool. It's a good name. It's a really good name. Really good actor. And he honestly didn't even get bad writing. There's no excuse for people to hate him other than he's Shia LaBeouf.
The only other thing I know is like basically after the movie came out and had kind of bad reviews, like Shia LaBeouf kind of badmouthed the movie.
Yeah.
And so I definitely think he like basically ruined his relationship with Steven Spielberg.
Sure.
So it was like, but I think part of the reason maybe people didn't like it or critical of him is because like, I don't know, people were really talking him up as like he's the next big thing, and like Steven Spielberg has picked him to be in Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
You know? And so maybe he had, you know, a lot of people, you know, judging his performance based on those expectations.
Yeah.
But again, I don't think it's bad. Shia LaBeouf is not. If you have criticisms about him in the movie, I really don't think that's the biggest criticism that can be leveled against.
You're just
this
fishing.
movie. Moving on, let's talk about the return of Marion Ravenswood. What do you think about her?
Best love interest.
Yeah, absolutely. Enough said. Way better than Willie Scott in Temple of Doom.
Don't you mean whiny Scott?
Yeah, she just screams at everything.
I mean, honestly, it's not a big deal. People, it's annoying, for sure.
Obviously, yeah.
I mean, she's not. That's not her setting.
Which, I mean, people were asking, you know, when Temple of Doom came out, like, oh, where's Marion? Like, you thought they'd be together. But that's a prequel.
Yeah, that's true.
But also, it's kind of modeled after James Bond. You know, he's got a new lady in each one. I don't know.
Yeah, and the third one. Where's she at in the third one then?
They don't even mention her in the third one.
Yeah, so he's a player.
She talks in her sleep.
So we're done with characters.
Unless do you have any other characters? I mean, you've got the character of like Dr. Oxley, who's like kind of not really talking much in this entire movie.
I actually
until the
really
very
like
end.
this character.
Do you?
I do.
I think it's an interesting character. I think one
It gives you like a little side project to like figure him out while the rest of the movie's unfolding.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's kind of cool.
Yeah. Let's talk about the MacGuffin. The MacGuffin is just like whatever Indy is chasing. So you've got in the first movie you've got the Ark of the Covenant.
Yes.
Temple of Doom, you've got the Shankara stones that got stolen from the village.
Yes.
Third one obviously is the
Holy Grail.
Yeah, the Holy Grail. The Cup of Christ. That's the cup of a carpenter. And then this one we've got the Crystal Skull. But yeah, I feel like I don't know. I think the Crystal Skull looks really cool.
It does.
I mean, I want to say it's like it's the coolest like one,
Say
like
it.
MacGuffin.
Say it.
But as a Christian, I'm having a hard time saying that compared to the Ark of the Covenant, you know,
Or the Holy Grail.
or the Holy Grail. But Shankara stones easily like okay, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just feel like out of all of these things,
I
the
have
Crystal
no
Skull-
interest in touching the Ark of the Covenant
Yeah,
because I mean Uzzah did.
yeah. I mean,
I ain't touching
he
that
ain't gonna
thing.
survive that.
I don't need that.
I just feel like the Crystal Skull would like look really cool, like on a shelf in my house
It
somewhere.
really would.
On display.
Honestly, all of them I want. If we get a studio one day,
We'll get the Crystal Skull.
yeah.
After Mutt and Indy meet up, they end up traveling down to Peru because they're following the trail of Mutt's mom's gone missing. He doesn't know that it's Marion yet, and Oxley is gone too, and they go down there. And I really like the scene where I guess they're like some kind of grave or something like that they're in, and like they've got those guys with like the skull masks on, like chasing them around in the dark.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the elements of like these movies. It's like it's got scary like scenes in it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like super scary, but I feel like that was kind of missing from like the new one. It didn't have as much things like that are meant to be like scary, or I don't know what these guys are gonna do.
Every Indiana Jones movie should have a little scary part where it's like unsettling for sure. Like the face melting, the heart being pulled out.
This has something kind of similar to the face melting. Not quite as graphic, but it's like
The ants, dude.
oh yeah, that too. Yeah.
The ants I
ant death.
love.
Yeah.
It's scary. You feel like you have no escape, and it ties in the Crystal Skull with it too.
Yeah.
Oh, it's such a good MacGuffin, dude.
I was thinking about this recently. Like I just love a good villain death. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, one that just catches you off guard, you know.
Yeah.
Like I rewatched the Lord of the Rings movies recently, and I watched like at the end of the first one, there's like that main orc that's like been terrorizing them the whole time, chasing after him or whatever, or gets sent to fight him or whatever.
Does his head get chopped off?
Yeah, Aragorn chops that guy's head off, and I was like, oh yeah, and you see the blood spurt, and I'm like, it just got me thinking about like good villain deaths. I don't know.
I'm gonna say it.
And the ant death there, getting like eaten alive by ants, that's a good villain death.
It's crazy. Now I'm gonna make some people mad, but I mean, what else is new today? That is a more unsettling sight than the face melting scene in Raiders. And I'll stand by it.
Similar to like that death, or similar to the face melting scene in Raiders, there's a scene where like they like open up this like bag that had this like human remains in it.
Yeah.
And it's been like perfectly preserved and that sort of thing. They open it up and the air gets to him, and you kind of see him like decompose like really quickly in front of their eyes. But it's not like graphic and bloody like Raiders.
Tales of the Crypt.
I liked that. That was a good effect. This scene is good. That's on that we're watching right now. It's where Irina, is that her name? I think the villain's like interrogating Indy and like making him look into the skull. This is one of those scenes that had some really good shots in it too, with the silhouettes.
That's one of my favorite shots ever from a Spielberg movie. That's what I pointed out.
Where you see him sitting in the chair in the background, but then there's like the curtain, and the shadow of his like silhouette.
Oh man, so good. Like you see the detail, like his mouth moving. It's like a huge head. To her. Oh, so cool. Eat your heart out, Raiders. I'm sorry.
What do you think of the line? Knowledge was their treasure. Do you think that's like a cop out, or do you like that explanation?
I like it. I like it.
I like it too. He's a teacher. He's a professor. He's all about education.
I mean, it's just like saying that the real treasure was the friends you made along the way. It's the journey, not the destination.
Yeah, I mean, cutting to the end, I mean, they're going through the Mayan temple. They're figuring out the clues. They're pulling out those blocks and having the sand, fall down, going down the steps.
Cool.
All that's
Very
really cool. At the bottom, you got the spears, and you got like a dead body impaled on the spears.
Gotta have
it's a nice little touch,
Gotta have
production designer. That's a good on you.
Yep.
And yeah, just going through and like discovering that room. I've kind of liked that idea of like there's this like circular round table room sort of like it's like all of them are waiting, and they're like they've just got that one skull that's missing, and it's like they're just waiting for that to be like reconnected, for them to be able to like I don't know, get in their UFO and fly away.
Part of me was really hoping that the crystal skull would be ET shaped. Or like the dead body would just be ET's dead body.
He's just looking all pale in the river, like in that scene.
Yeah.
He runs away.
There's gotta be a good edit of that.
Oh, and I think that is one. It's not a secret that Steven Spielberg was not really on board with the plot for this movie, because he didn't really want to do another Aliens movie, because he had done Close Encounters, he had done E.T. He's like, I've kind of done that.
Yeah.
But kind of George Lucas was kind of insistent, like this is kind of the route he wanted to go with it.
I actually really do Star Wars, so I'm not done with that.
Sometimes I can do a good George, and other times I feel like I'm not locked into it right now.
I guess mine was more of a Jordan Peterson.
Kermit the Frog here.
You gotta eat a steak every day.
I don't know what I'm doing. Anyways,
like I said, I'm good with the aliens being discovered at the end. It's not a step too far for me, because I feel like all of these movies have mystical, fantastical elements to them.
I will say it is kind of weird seeing the actual aliens and having them fly away at the end, because that kind of takes away from the mystery.
Yeah, I kind of like that. There's Oxley says, like, after it flies away and like the dam breaks and the water like floods that valley, and it's like that whole temple is gone. that was there before, and he's just like a broom to their footsteps. Like it's like you
Yeah.
never know it was there, and like they're the only people that have even witnessed that.
Kind of reminded me of in the Goonies when the ship went off
Sails off.
into the distance. Same vibe, not the
Yeah.
exact same thing.
Then Indy says to Marion, "You're gonna come live with me now. We're gonna be a family."
That's great.
So, do you want to do like our rankings for the movies,
We might as well.
and then like maybe we should talk about Indy 5 first, and then do our rankings of like the movies? I guess maybe that's how we should do it, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Metal in this gunpowder should point the way.
So let's talk about Indy 5 and our review of that.
Okay.
And we will be talking spoilers, so if you haven't seen it, don't listen to this part, I guess. But we have to say that for a new movie. We never cover new movies.
Let me just start off with Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Sounds like a name that doesn't exist.
Hmm.
It doesn't sound good. It sounds fake.
It sounds like a comic title or something like that, like a book name.
Destiny. What is this, Star Trek? Get out of here. Raiders of the Lost Ark goes hard. Temple of Doom. It's cool. That's cool.
Temple of Doom is a great title, dude.
No.
Yeah.
Compared to the
it
other
is.
ones, no.
They're all good titles.
Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Bad donkey right there. The Last Crusade, kind of weak. If we're going names, Dial of Destiny is the worst.
I think
Last Crusade,
They're all good.
they're all good. I'm just saying, I'm ranking them, dude.
Okay.
Dial of Destiny, bottom of the names. Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, I'll go second place.
Okay.
And I'll go Raiders 1. And then Temple of Doom third. And then, what a weird way to rank.
Just by the titles.
But also, like, the way I went in order was like 5,
5,
2,
2,
1,
1.
3, and 4. Anyways, those aren't our actual rankings of what we like.
What are your thoughts on Indy 5?
Well, people hated this movie. People hated Kingdom of the Crystal Skull because of the aliens and the sci-fi switch. And it used to be more like magical artifacts. But Indy 5 just kind of, it's just freaking time travel. You know how I feel about time travel movies. I just won't accept Indy 5 as a better movie than Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Mm-hmm.
Hot take, I don't really like Mads Mikkelsen as an actor anymore.
Elaborate. Say more.
He's typecast as the bad guy that is also
Yeah.
German.
Yeah.
Grindelwald.
Yeah.
Did I
I
say
mean,
more?
Yeah. He was in Rogue One.
Yeah.
He was Jyn Erso's dad.
German.
Like a scientist forced to kind of build the Death Star. He was actually a Bond villain, Casino Royale.
Mm-hmm.
Now he's in Indy.
German.
I forgot he was Grindelwald because I forgot about
German.
that movie. But yeah.
I don't know. He's getting old. I like to see some acting range from him. Hot take, I hate Helena. She is not a good person at all.
Interesting.
I do not like her. And I thought I would really like her because I like the actress a lot. Character, do not like at all. Biggest complaint, they didn't even bring back Short Round. And I know his comeback was post
After they
Ki
filmed.
Hwan's comeback as an actor came after they wrapped up shooting.
Yeah.
But they could have added like an after credit scene or something.
I know. I was hoping they would.
That's ridiculous.
Like, give him at least a cameo or something, like shoehorn him in there or something. But yeah, I was kind of let down about that.
I really hated that they got rid of Mutt Williams.
Okay.
And they just had a throwaway line like, oh, he died in the war.
Yeah.
So lame. Such a good character. And just because people complain about it, and also he complained, does not mean you have to get rid of him.
I have stuff to say on that in my review too.
I don't necessarily like... I feel like they're just adding random things and like seeing if it works. Like his whole relationship with he has a goddaughter from this guy that he knows.
Mm-hmm.
What? When was he ever mentioned? I was very impressed with the CGI, even though they played with it a little too much. I think I was not expecting the first 30 minutes of the movie to be CGI Harrison Ford.
Yeah, I knew that going in, that it was going to be a pretty extended sequence.
I just thought it was going to be like a little bit like flashback here and there.
Mm-hmm.
But no. One thing I really liked the kid. What was his name?
I want to say like Benny or something like that.
Benny?
I could be wrong.
I
Though.
don't-
He was good. He's no short round, but
I
he was
actually
good.
really, really liked him a lot.
Did you?
Yeah. I like the scuba scene. It really messed with me when they went time traveling. Because that's not Indiana Jones. They turned it into an MCU movie. That's what they did.
See, but now we sound like all the people that hated on Crystal Skull. That's why I feel like I have to accept it, you know?
I can't, though. No, I really just can't. Because...
The first thing you said at the end of the movie, you're like, I want to watch Timeline now.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
That's a movie. Stay tuned for that episode. That was a good movie.
But, like, their complaint was aliens.
Mm-hmm.
Aliens and time travel don't go hand in hand. It's not the same thing. This is something that in a fictional world is plausible.
Mm-hmm.
It would be aliens. But time travel...
It's not plausible in a fictional world?
In a fictional world it is, but this fictional world, it's not.
Mm. I mean, yeah,
Obviously, there's, like, magic and, like, supernatural stuff going on in this other world as we know it. But, like...
I just thought the time travel stuff was kind of convoluted, and I was kind of confused by it. It's kind of why I want to see it again.
I just think it was unnecessary.
Because they go back... I mean, the plot is that the villain is trying to go back and kill Hitler, which is kind of a twist because you never think of a Nazi.
Hitler.
Yeah, so he can like take his place and like do better than him, basically, which is kind of a twist because normally, like, what would you do with a time machine? Like, go back and kill baby Hitler, that sort of thing. Like, that's kind of a.
I wouldn't kill baby Hitler.
Okay, but
I wouldn't kill baby Hitler. If I had to kill any version of Hitler, it would be before he went on the rampage.
Okay.
Before he was responsible for killing somebody.
Yeah. But it was kind of convoluted because it was like one of those things where it's like he hadn't finished making the dial. Archimedes hadn't finished making it, but then they brought it to him so he could finish it. And I was like, I thought that was kind of lame. That's why
time travel movies kill me.
But that's why it kind of reminded me of Timeline because
Yeah.
there was kind of some stuff like that in it. But I wasn't too enthused about that, but I knew that was going to be a part of it in some way going into it.
Yeah.
But like I accept it. I think some of my problems with the movie, and first of all, like I enjoyed the movie. I did have some issues with it, but like I enjoyed it. It's good to see Harrison Ford playing Indy, even if he's 80 years old. I'll still go see it.
Yeah.
It still had a great soundtrack from John Williams. Maybe his last soundtrack ever.
Yeah.
At least for like one of these types of movies. So that was good. And I really liked. I liked the MacGuffin. I liked the dial. It was kind of cool the story of trying to piece together the mystery and going from place to place. I enjoyed a lot of that. Some of my issues were kind of more the character stuff that they were relying on because Harrison Ford's 80, so they tried to make it kind of character driven and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I liked at the end that Helena knocked him out. Didn't let him stay in the past. Brought him back to the present.
Yes.
I liked that. Absolutely the right move. People are calling that moment woke and stuff, but like, no, that's what needed to happen in that situation. He needed to come back. But the only thing that makes like that ending satisfying is like, oh, and him and Marion like reconcile. And like part of the reason that they separated was
Why
because
did they need to separate?
right, and like one of the reasons they separated was because Mutt died in Vietnam. You know, he enlisted and died in
Whose
action or
fault
something
is
like
that?
That's
Steven.
the story, and that actually has.
Steven.
Let me finish talking, Jeremy.
Okay.
That's one of the better moments of like acting in the whole movie is like when Helena asked him like, "Oh, if you had the dial, what would you do?" And he's like, "I'd stop my son from enlisting." Like that was a good character moment, but I just feel like basically all they did was like knock down all the pieces from the last one to put them back together again and like say, "Oh, now we've resolved the story." I like my review of this movie, the long way around of getting to it is like Dial of Destiny is not a better epilogue to the Indiana Jones character than Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Indy 4 is like it's a classic indie adventure. It's a lot more fun.
Yes.
The new one is a little kind of bleak and stuff because he's just kind of depressed. And
Here's something. Indy 5 is the Toy Story 4 to Kingdom of the Crystal Skull's Toy Story 3.
yeah, I mean, I feel like the original 3 is a great story. It's got that classic. I mean, the Last Crusade was meant to be kind of that's where they were going to hang up their hat. That's where it was going to end. But I like Indy 4, and I feel like that's a good epilogue to the character of like he gets back.
Yeah.
They already did the whole thing of like, oh, it was never our relationship, Indy and Marion. It was never going to work. We broke up. But we got back together.
Yeah.
And they kind of did that again for the 5th one. And so it like I said, it just felt like
Not cool.
I feel like this did go against the previous movie, and like basically just knocked it down just so that they could like lift it back up again.
Yeah.
So I didn't really like that aspect
Just so
of it.
people can be unsatisfied with the ending. Again.
I think my expectations for the movie was a lot of people went into it with this has to redeem Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. And for me, I was like, I already like that one.
Yeah, that made me mad.
So I don't have to expect that. I think the only expectations I had was they hired a new director, James Mangold, to direct it. And so I was curious what he was going to do with it, knowing that he did the movie Logan, which was kind of like the swan song for like the Wolverine character.
Yeah.
And I liked that movie, and I thought that was a good fitting in for that movie, for that character.
Yeah.
And I just like, after I watched this one, I was like, I didn't feel like it was as satisfactory of like an ending for the character as Kingdom of the Crystal Skull was.
I don't want to see an ending to Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily need it to be like a reoccurring James Bond.
Yeah.
There's like, or Doctor Who. But like, I don't have to have the need for an ending of this character.
Yeah.
At all. Just like do a good movie and then maybe hint at it.
Yeah.
And that's what Kingdom of the Crystal Skull did.
And like, even though I still have like issues with it, like I still again, I like the movie. I'm not going to be the one to be like, oh, there are only 4 Indiana Jones movies. That one doesn't count, Like
Right.
when I rewatch the movies, I'm going to watch it. And I enjoyed a lot of aspects of it. I actually liked the Helena character. She's not a good person.
Yeah.
But I liked the back and forth that they had. It was a bit much at some times, but for the most part, I liked her character.
Yeah. I mean,
I liked the villain
choose
was
her
fine.
over Mutt? No.
Okay, one thing that you kind of touched on that's kind of a pet peeve of mine, at least that I've noticed in some recent years, is like you asked about like her, who is like this random guy that shows up in the 5th movie that like now he's got a goddaughter and that sort of thing. And I guess that's one thing is like, this kind of happened with like the Rise of Skywalker, is basically where like you get to the end and you're like, oh, I need to come up with stakes for this final movie because we know this is going to be the end. And so they have to do all the work of like creating that backstory and resolving it all in the final movie and trying to make it like emotionally satisfying. And so I felt like there was some of that going on with this one. Not as bad as like somehow Palpatine returned, like Rise of Skywalker, but there was
Temple of Doom. He had random people. along in his posse, and that was great.
Well, and I guess with that, I'm kind of referring to like, obviously that the relationship with that guy and Helena, that family, but also just the idea of like, oh, the dial of destiny is something he's been searching for his whole life. Like they kind of touched on that in the opening scene of Last Crusade with that cross of Coronado, because you see him like it evades him at the beginning of that intro, and then it flashes forward to him, and he's like, it belongs in a museum, and he's like, he gets it back, and he goes back and tells Marcus Brody, like, you know how long I've been searching for that? He's like, all your life? He's like, all my life, you know?
Yeah.
And so they kind of did that again with like trying to come up with some ultimate MacGuffin in the final movie, and it didn't really need that finality to it. I just wanted another fun Indiana Jones adventure.
Yeah, I mean Indiana,
and that's what I got for the most part.
Indy didn't even give a crap about it. He's like, it's just some piece of junk. Yeah, I'll get you some research. I don't care. I'm retiring.
Yeah, there was a lot of good stuff in it. A lot of cool things. I want to see it again.
I'm not hating on it. I also will be like, yeah. So there are 5 movies, but I'm also like, my only gripes with the time travel aspect is that it just doesn't fit as Indiana Jones. Like, I just can't help but think, well, like, what's the future for Indiana Jones now that he knows that he can time travel?
Well,
Did they
leave the dial there?
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Just like in his brain thinking like, oh, time travel is possible now.
Well, I was also confused as to whether, because they say when they get to wherever Archimedes is, Athens, was that in Greece?
Yeah.
He's like, you were always meant to come here. And so I was like,
so dumb.
So
worst line of the movie.
What does that mean? Does that mean that the dial's only made to go to that one specific point in time? Or is it made to go anywhere and like, because they were under the impression they could go anywhere they wanted, and they were aiming for.
I think he was just trying to sound cool.
Yeah, 1944, Germany. But how do you even know where to go for that? Like, oh, I gotta go in this ripple in time, and again,
it's an MCU movie. It's what it is.
Well, I don't hate on it that much. I was very glad that they didn't leave him there, because I liked the fake out, because I thought that they were gonna leave him there, and that's how they were gonna like kill him, but not really kill him. Yeah. You know, give him some kind of happy ending. But I did like the way they ended it. It's just not as satisfying of an ending as Crystal Skull is for me, in my opinion. So,
but endings don't have. Okay, I think I'm realizing that I don't care about endings. I love beginnings. Beginnings are super cool. Endings are kind of unnecessary to me. Endgame. Great movie watching experience. But I don't have to have that movie. I don't. Because it's I don't know. Just like, oh, how are we going to... Because the movie only becomes, how are we going to fix this? How are we going to end this characters? And then that's the entire movie. It kind of defeats the whole purpose of what it began with.
I still really like it, but I see the criticism of it being kind of a cop out to do like time travel.
Yeah, another time travel ending movie.
That's why you don't like it.
Yeah. But no, even then, just like the whole time we were just like, all right, their contracts are up. What are we gonna do with them? Iron Man's gonna die. Yeah,
that's one of the things of like being so invested in like movies and like behind the scenes and what's going on, what's in development. It's like, you know, all the business side of it too. Is like, so I don't know. You know, it's got to end because of this.
It's hard to enjoy a movie concept for what it is these days. You got to worry about, oh, this one just came out. Well, what about the sequel? Oh, James Cameron's coming out with 6 of them.
Yeah.
That's my only goal in life, is to actually be able to finish the Avatar series before I die.
I think the I think the multiverse popularity in movies is also that combined with time travel tropes is like what's getting really exhausting for people, I think. Because there's so many multiverse things and it's like infinite possibilities and it's just like too much. Like we just want
What
something
kind of actor could we get
a
in
little
for
bit more.
this guy?
We need more like grounded storytelling, I think. So, anyways, I think we've. Is there anything else you have to say about Indy
No.
5? I feel like we've
Go
ranted.
watch it for yourself.
We ranted about it.
Come up with your own ideas and opinions of it.
I think I gave it 3.5 stars on Letterboxd.
I did too.
5. I mean, it was good. I enjoyed it, but it didn't blow me away. But it's still a fun indie adventure.
Yeah.
You know, and spoiler alert, I'm gonna rank Indy 4 higher. So take that for what you will. What is your ranking of the Indiana Jones movies? Number 5. What's your number 5 is Dial of Destiny.
Yes.
So is mine.
Yes. Dude, Temple Doom used to be my favorite one.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I can put that one down as, but I could as number 4.
What is your number 4?
Dude, I might put Temple Doom.
Ouch.
I don't want to, but
Just lock it in. We can change it later.
yeah.
My
Lock it in. It can always
lock
be
it in.
unlocked.
Lock it in. We can unlock it. My number 4 is probably Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Okay.
But I think that might change, honestly.
Yes.
But for now, I'm gonna keep it there. What's your number 3?
Crusade.
Okay, that's mine as well. And we'll talk. We can talk about that, why that is, when we cover those movies. But that's where I've got number 3. Number 2, what have you got?
Raiders.
Raiders? You're gonna do it?
I'm doing it.
Okay.
I'm so sorry. Sorry to everybody here. I'd like to formally apologize.
Well, guess what, Jeremy? Number 2, mine. Raiders.
Yes. I know I made a good choice.
So your
My
number.
best
So your number
friend.
1 is Crystal Skull.
Yes.
My number 1 is Temple of Doom.
Okay. Oh, we are cursed.
And that
we are cursed.
that is why me and you have no authority or credibility in the Indiana Jones fan community, and that's fine, you know. But I will say, Temple of Doom is just the most fun one to me. Like, I don't
Yeah.
usually go for the darker ones.
Crusade is number 4 for me. Locked in.
Locked in.
Temple Doom is 3rd for me. Yep.
I just love that. That's the one that I just put on. That's the one I rewatch the most.
Yep.
Just if I just
Bro,
want to throw
I'm
one
so
on,
sorry.
I put
Raiders of
Temple
the Lost
Doom.
Ark is 3rd place for me.
Yeah.
It's gotta be. I'm very bored with that movie on a lot of occasions.
I get kind of bored with Last Crusade because I feel like it's a repeat of Raiders, but
Well,
it has
I
a
just
great
jumped
story.
up Temple Doom as my 2nd favorite.
Man, I moved you up.
You did. I feel like I have to restate my rankings.
All right, number 5,
5.
Dial
Number
of
4,
Destiny.
Crusade. Number 3, Raiders of the Lost Ark. Number 2, Temple Doom. And number 1, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. I apologize to all the fans out there. But you know what? I'm not saying that those are the best. They're just my favorite.
They're all Indiana Jones movies. They're all good.
They are. Y'all got upset with me whenever I said Attack of the Clones is my favorite Star Wars movie. And you know what? Closing statements. We can't hold this movie to the same high standard when the others do the same exact stuff. And it's not just a copy of it. It's not like a rehash fan service movie. And this is the movie I have found that I will die on a hill for.
Mhm.
I will always defend in any conversation. And if you hate this movie, I'm sorry, you're just wrong. You are wrong. Because you need to check your reasonings for hating this movie compared to why you like the other movies. And if you really, truly find in your heart that you hate this movie, it's because I don't think you like Indiana Jones.
Fair enough.
And that is my closing statement.
I feel like this one has been all over the place, just defending and ranting.
Bro, this is just a huge apology.
Was this a negative episode? I can't really tell.
It was a good episode.
It was very positive.
It's a negative on people.
We don't like people. They don't know what they're talking about.
Dude, I'm sorry that I feel horrible picking that as my favorite one. But I objectively believe that Raiders of the Lost Ark is so good. It's so good.
Yeah.
It's so freaking boring though.
That's a hot take. But I do feel like there are definitely some moments in it where my mind drifts a little bit.
We don't know what's going on.
I do think like objectively Raiders is like the best indie movie. But it's not my personal favorite. Temple of Doom is.
Exactly.
So
that's what I'm saying too.
And
Temple of Doom is not my favorite.
I feel like the accepted rankings for these movies mostly goes like this. Usually goes Raiders, Crusade, but some people flip-flop those two.
Yeah.
And then Temple of Doom.
Yes.
I think I've seen a lot of people putting the new one above Crystal Skull.
I know. And
Even if it's just slightly. They're like, it's a slight improvement over the last one. But I think a lot of people are going 1, 3, 2, 5, 4 is how they're ranking them.
Yes.
And I feel like, we don't fit that mold.
Obviously, 4 is my number 1.
So I feel like I might flip-flop Crusade and Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. But I feel like I'll probably keep Crusade at number 3. Because I do like having those classics there.
We will just have to see by the time we finish them.
Yeah. It's locked in. I can change it later.
What's your letterbox score for Kingdom of the Crystal Skull?
Crystal Skull. I gave Crystal Skull 4 out of 5 stars. I think like I said before, I think it's a fun movie. And comparing this one to the 5th one, like Harrison Ford is so young. Like I could have seen him do more of these movies, and it would have been fine. What do you give this one? 4 out of 5? 4.5?
4.5 out of 5.
Okay.
And it's crazy because it has a 2.7 on Letterboxd.
Yeah, I saw that.
All right, well, another day, another staple. Well, everyone, our only question left is, what is your favorite inside quote from? We didn't even go over quotes, really.
Yeah, I threw in a few here and there, but I don't know that we really have any. I mean, inside quotes.
Yeah, not many inside quotes, just good quotes. But if you have an inside quote, let us know on Instagram at InsideQuotesCast.
Yeah, and if you haven't done that, go ahead and follow us on Instagram and let us know if there are any movies you want us to cover on the show. Well, Jeremy, this week was my turn. I wanted to cover an Indiana Jones movie in light of the new movie coming out.
Yeah.
Do you have a hint for us of what we're going to be covering next week?
This movie really inspired me to watch an actually good time travel movie, so that's my only hint. I don't even remember if it's a good time travel movie. It might be horrible, and it probably will be, but we will figure that out together.
We will.
Next time on Inside Quotes.
And if you think that's weird, you're gonna love this.
What is this?
It's one of the documents you found in the hall today. It's basically just a simple list of the things that were stored in there, nothing special. And then I found this. Look.
The professor? Help me. E.A. Johnson?
4 to 1357.
E.A. Johnson. I cross-matched the signatures. It's definitely his handwriting. But he's only been gone for 2 days. I mean, your father wrote that, but he wrote it 600 years ago.
What's going on here? Our show art was done by Bryce Bridgeman, and you can find him on Instagram at GroovyBridge.
And our music was done by Alex Bird.
And we would love it if you left us a 5-star review. And if you do, we promise to read it here on the show.
But more importantly, 5 stars, and we won't make you go back to college. Unless knowledge is your treasure.
Or if we find out that you're our son.
Let's hope not.
Thanks for listening, everybody. We hope you enjoyed listening to us talk about our childhood just as much as we have. And if you did, make sure you hit follow on Apple Podcasts and Spotify so that you don't miss out on a future episode.
Also, if you like the show, share it with a friend.
Until next week, we'll see you next time on Inside Quotes. Jonathan, you're a podcast host?
Part-time.